Well, Congressman Steve King was one of those who voted no tonight and did not get his way. Representative King, good to see you here as always. So after all's been said and done, what was accomplished by the Tea Party caucus and those who voted no tonight?
Well, you know, it is sometimes look on the bright side, and that's what I'm responding to here. The bright side is this, that I think we've identified 20 to 30, maybe more strong conservatives here in the House of Representatives that have now gelled into a team. It's probably bigger than that when you look at some others, maybe 70 or 80 altogether. We hadn't been in that place where we did those meetings, had those dinners, talked, and really related in this way before. So I think that will pay dividends over the long run. I've watched as there's a core of effective conservative senators that have made their mark also. Now, it may not be their best night tonight, but they have a national presence, and I think we'll be able to gel together and move a more conservative, fiscally responsible agenda. And that's the bright side of this. And I think also that our conference altogether is stronger and more unified than it might appear after this vote tonight. There really isn't that personal acrimony.
Or the Republican Party, because the Republican Party seems a bit divided.
No, I think really the Republican Party, the Republican conference here in the House, yes, we're divided on the vote, but we gelled together as a team. It's not personal acrimony like you might think in a time like this.
How is that, Representative King? Because I see in the House there's been, you know, there have been divisions, but what I really hear is Republicans over in the Senate, like Lindsey Graham and John McCain, going after you guys. I mean, they are all over Ted Cruz in a very negative way, and all over House Tea Party members in a negative way.
Well, Megan, that's true, and that's been true for several weeks now, that they've been taking shots in that fashion. And I don't disagree with that. There seems to be a sharp division in the Senate, and I don't know if they're going to gel together. And I know that there are some members in the House that have taken some shots at each other and taken some shots at Ted Cruz, for example. But I don't see that tension that I expected. I thought there might be a division come down between us, and we might line up in the room and point fingers at each other and yell. And that didn't happen at all.
All right, let me ask you this. And by the way, I mean, the polls show that there has been a deterioration. There was a Pew Research poll tonight, came out today, that says there was a general opinion of the Tea Party in June. 37% thought it was favorable. It's dropped to 30% now that think it's favorable. So there has been some decline among the general public's perception. But what now? What now? Because the one thing that has been pretty consistent is the general public has not been thrilled about Obamacare from the beginning. And that's how this whole thing got started. And yet, you know, you lost that battle. So now what happens? Now what do you do about Obamacare that you feel so strongly about?
Well, it would be hard to gin up this kind of effort again. I just think that's clear. But we will see as the resistance to Obamacare builds and people see their premiums going up 30, 40, 70%. And we're seeing people, I've got one who sent me a letter the other day that sees his premium go up 365% and his deductible from $2,000 to over $6,000. Those kind of cases will start to accumulate. I think that if they hit all at once, if this were dropped in our lap on, say, the first part of January of next year, the timing of it might be just right to do some of this over again. But I'm concerned that it'll come in incrementally and the American people will accept it and just forget all the promises that were made to get Obamacare passed and just accept this and capitulate and maybe drop their insurance altogether, pay the penalty. We're losing jobs. Employers are coming to me on a regular basis explaining to me why they can't live under this. So I just don't know if the malaise sets in or if the resistance sets in.
My apologies for interrupting you, but I want to ask you about the $17 trillion. I mean, what really, do you have high hopes for Paul Ryan and Patty Murray?
No. And in fact, I don't really even think about that being part of the equation. There's got to be leverage before you're going to slow down the president's spending or Harry Reid and his Democrats in the Senate spending.
Even when there's leverage, they didn't do it.
That's right. And there isn't going to be leverage on this deal coming forward. And so I don't have high hopes that this gets slowed down. And I'm concerned about the Congress, to some degree, abdicating its responsibility to restrain the president.
What is the solution to that, then? If people are sitting there at home disgusted by that $17 trillion number, what is the solution?
Well, several years ago, I came to the conclusion that we had to move the hearts and minds in America if we were going to move the political center. I've been mightily trying to do that, so have a lot of other people, but it isn't evident enough to this point that I can say that's been successful, and I don't know if our conscience is going to kick in. Megan, we're the richest country in the history of the world with more science, technology, manpower, know-how. We can fix everything that could have ever been fixed by any civilization, and yet still we can't restrain ourselves to live within our means, and so we're mortgaging the labor of children yet to be born. And I think it's immoral to do that, but I don't see it guilting people to go out there and carry their share of the load on balance. Yes, we have good workers in this country or we'd have been sunk by now, but we have 100 million Americans of working age that are simply not in the workforce, and we've got to put them back to work.
You know, there's a who lives in Westchester, New York, named Bob Clyott, and he sculpted an exhibit with little babies with chains around their necks, one to the other, and he called it Treasury Bondage. Look at it. You can see. I mean, it's a disturbing, you know, image, but it tells the tale, does it not? I'll give you the last word, sir.
Megan, I'm expecting a little grandson next month, and Lord willing, he'll come into the world. His share of the debt will be $53,000, and no sign that that's going to do anything except to go up. America's got to get a conscience. We've got to keep the pressure on. We've got to have another election or two, and we need a new president. That's for